This is the Peter Greenwood Show. I'm at the Edinburgh Fringe, and normally I just have somebody to my left, but I've got somebody to my left and my right today. Could you tell me your names and your show title, please?
Yes, my name is Marta McElduff, and my show is called Aliens.
And my name is Alessandra McElduff as well, and my show is called Aliens as well.
How are you today? Are you well?
Yeah, very good. We're at the beginning of our Fringe. We actually just got here with our show, so we're still fresh.
Oh, you're still... Oh, new blood.
Exactly.
They love that in the streets of Edinburgh. Let's talk about aliens. Now, it's not UFO aliens. What is aliens?
So our show title is called Aliens, which indeed, as you say, is not UFOs. It's sadly the name that was given to anyone who was a foreigner in Ireland. Their passports were stamped with the word alien, and our show retraces the history of Italians in Ireland, because I was born in Ireland and my mother is Italian, so it's the two of us on stage, and we look at the impact of this word, the way that it others people, that it decides who is valid and not valid to be in a certain place.
And to do this, we decided to go on a road trip, mother and daughter road trip with 2 mobile phones, and this object became like a live film where we're also on stage with a musician who does like live music. And so, yeah, it's like an experiment of cinema on stage. I come from documentaries. I do like normal films normally, and we've been like to many festivals in the world, and this is like an experiment on stage.
So I'd like to start with something you brought up about the stamp on passports that says alien. Is that something that still happens? Is that still really 2026?
So the alien department is not called the alien department anymore, but it's a term that is sadly still used. Actually, this year, the United States came out with, on their official website, a map of the aliens that had been captured, meaning all the people that were detained by ICE. So it's not anymore a word that is within the, let's say, political landscape here in the UK as per se, but it's a word that is still being used. And I think we live in Belfast, and in Belfast this year we've seen a lot of really horrifying racist attacks on different communities, and so although the word is maybe not used in the same way, the effects of deciding who is valid to be here and who's not valid to be here are still felt, I think.
But I think in the show we kind of reclaim that name, aliens, to make it beautiful, because aliens are beings that are made of different things, that they come from different places, they maybe speak more than one language, so they're like bridges that help society to actually come together. So we give it a nice, a nice meaning.
That sounds like a very almost dehumanizing word, to use the term alien. How did that inspire the road trip, and how did that happen?
I think when we started to dig into this history of Italians in Northern Ireland that came between the 2 wars, a lot of the themes that we were hearing from the people we interviewed, broken windows in people's houses, food issues,
burning shops.
Yeah, all these issues, we were like, oh, these are things that are really sort of relevant today. And so we thought to retrace their steps and to kind of understand how this story in the past could resonate not only with the people that we met along the trip, because there's lots of other people in the show, activists, strangers that we meet on this road trip, but also how it resonated with us as a family that is also a family that crosses border, that exists between many different languages, where me and my mum don't have exactly the same accent, the same understanding of the world, and so how these wider histories impact all these small lives, including ours.
So you went on this road trip. What was that like? How long was it? And what did you discover? Which is kind of a broad question. What did you discover? But what did you discover, and when did you begin to make those discoveries?
Well, first of all, it was a couple of months on the road, which is a lot of time, especially for a daughter with her mom. I was happy. She was a little bit more like unsure about the experiment. And we went from the coast of Donegal, where actually an horrendous event of the history happened, where there was a boat who was sunk with 400 Italian aliens on board who died, and all the bodies were washed up on the shores of Donegal, which sadly really remember what happens, in Italy nowadays. And so we went from those coasts, kind of like arriving in the middle of nowhere and meeting people like a Polish waitress that then had their own story as an alien, like who are the aliens of nowadays. And I kept going then to Belfast, where her granny and granddad, he's Catholic, she's Protestant, so their love was like a love between borders.
Yeah, basically forbidden, really.
Oh,
They've
yeah.
been-
At the time, they received a bullet in the post when they decided to get married. And I kind of also talk about, because when I came out to my grandparents as gay, they accepted it so easily in relation to their generation. And I think for me, it was, okay, these are two people that have been confronted by those boundaries that dictate who can love who. And they'd crossed those boundaries as well. So I think they could relate to that feeling.
We were also following the border. There's a border between Northern Ireland and South Ireland that decided really the history of the Italians, which side they were. And that border doesn't really exist. It's like bushes. It's just grass, So, and we were like meeting people again during this journey, people who live on the border. Then we went down to Calais, and that was, again, like a very like impactful story for us, because Marta has a lot of friends who are activists there. And so we were completely immersed in like a horrible event again there with the Syrian young boy who died at sea the night before. So I was like, this is still happening. That's where the Italians got their stamp on the passport, and this is still happening, in the waters of our seas. And then we went down to the little village called Casalatico, where all these Italians came from. And that was another experience, because for me there we found these people who always lived in between worlds. And it was like a teaching for us, it's fine, you're from there, you're also from Ireland, maybe your son has a different accent, completely different accent than you, or a different sense of belonging, but that's fine. It was very reassuring, in a way.
Yeah, not only is it fine, but it's an immense richness. And I think that was what was beautiful with doing our road trip, but also with performing the show, is we always have people come up to us and say, I was born in Taiwan, but I moved to Poland, and all these different, what we like to call aliens, but all these different people who have grown up between different cultures, and as you said, create these bridges. And it's really beautiful to kind of create an army of them a little bit.
Yeah, we created a sort of movement called I Am an Alien Too, where people really come and tell us their stories. So that's kind of really nice about the show.
I'd like to ask a little bit about being at the borders, especially in 2026 when they are getting more hostile, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
What were some of those experiences like for you at the borders, and what were some of the people you met? Like, what were their stories?
So I think it was because we went to the border between the north and the south of Ireland that was virtually non-existent now in terms of landmarks. And then a few days later, we were in Calais, where it's barbed wires, especially after Brexit. There's been even more sort of setups. And I think what we show, I think, in the show is that it's a really hostile place, and it's very difficult to know how to talk about it in a way that is impactful and also just and right to the story of what's happening at the moment in these borders. And I think that what was nice of having two perspectives is that we didn't agree on everything. We didn't agree necessarily on what we wanted to put in the show, what we didn't want to put in the show. But I think that humanity that comes of how do we as a mother and daughter, but also we as a society, deal with these issues. How do we care about them? How do we represent them? How do we show our involvement?
I mean, we crossed the story of this young Syrian man that we never met, and I think we want to say the name, Suleiman. It could be like any mother's son, as we say in the show, and he was only 19 and he died at sea. It was just the night before. Marta, she has this friend who's like a super activist, and she speaks Arabic, so she was the one who's leading this strange ceremony in the middle of the street. We were less than 30, kind of putting candles and caring for this young boy, and you realize how dehumanized it is. As we see in the show at some point, the passport of the granny of an Italian woman, and this granny that we see her wedding dress, so we have some elements of her story, and then you see alien on the passport. and it's as violent as like you're an alien. It's okay if you die, you know. And that is also the story of Ernesto, who is this man. Ernesto Moruzzi is this tomb that we found in Donegal with this Italian man who died at sea, and they had taken out in his name Ernesto. They took out the O because they wanted to anglicize it probably. So Ernest, he became Ernest. So in a way, they took away a bit of his identity just even before his story started. So it was kind of violent, and at the same time we found a lot of resilience and people who just live with it and just keep going, you know.
Yeah, and also I guess the power of empathy on a larger scale, like the tomb of Ernesto that we found in the north of Ireland. He's all alone. He's the only Italian among hundreds of Irish names, and there's people still to this day that bring flowers to his grave, strangers. And I think that was also the feeling that we had in Calais, where all of a sudden all the people that were here for the wake of Suleiman were not necessarily people that knew him firsthand. Some of his friends maybe that had traveled with him, but I think it was also these moments of, okay, we all have to care for each other in a way, and make
it's
that
also
net.
such a strange place, Northern Ireland, you know. It's a place that was kind of like the border was traced on a piece of paper and that's it. Like they decided that was a place on its own, and these borders, we realize they really play with people's life. It's absolutely not on the same scale, but when Brexit arrived, I was like asked, why are you coming to the country? Like, because my husband is from here, you know, because, well, how long are you going to stay? When are you going to go out? Can I see your ticket to go out? You know, so from one day to the other, things can really change because of a border. That's we really felt.
Maybe this is a bit of a personal question, but how do you handle hearing all these stories? It must be emotionally devastating for you.
It definitely is. I think probably what makes it possible is that there's so many stories of resilience and so much humor and so much stories of people helping each other out, and I think that that's kind of what I think that that's kind of what makes it balanced, at least, where you can feel the sadness but also feel the hope and the joy and the humor as well. Like, no one has more humor than people that are going through a really hard time, and I think that that's kind of what we hope to have in the show as well, is that it is a very sad show and sometimes people come out really moved, but it's also really funny and really human, and it encompasses everything that a life encompasses. Even very hard lives encompass moments of joy, of friendship, of solidarity, and I think that was kind of what made it possible to continue and to want to tell these stories. I mean, yeah, we have a lot of just interviews that are bittersweet in that way.
Yeah, I just found out when I went to Belfast for the first time, I was like, they're laughing about things we wouldn't dare to laugh about, you know. But I realized how much the sense of humor is a weapon to survive, and actually, yeah, that you can see that in the show. It is really a funny show at the same time, you know.
And to connect with each other as well, I think.
And just say it's okay because we're still able to laugh. We're still humans, and so you cannot kill us or you cannot destroy us.
I mean, there's the famous Irish quote of "Our revenge will be the laughter of our children," but I think that's something. Yeah, and I think especially going into it as mother and daughter and meeting all these people as mother and daughter, I think it gave something that we could all relate to, because no matter what your relationship with your parent is, we all come from a mother. That's kind of the one thing that we really have in common. And so I think that to be able to just relate with people in that way, I think that kind of gave an opening for having very vast conversations.
And probably that was our second exploration of the borders. What are the borders between a mother and daughter? So this is a big theme in the show. You know, a lot of people come out saying, oh my God, I really saw the relation that I have with my mom and this thing, or oh my God, my daughter went away when she was 18 and it was devastating, like, so we sort of explored those borders, and we decided since the beginning to be extremely honest with each other. So we had like two mobile phones, and we were recording loads of our conversations, and sometimes they're really like tough, and Marta, she tells me what she thinks. But we decided, that has to be a deeply honest conversation between mother and daughter. So like some people came to see the show and they said, oh my God, that's like a psychotherapy in 1 hour, like you do it so well, because you go through exactly what it is. Who are you? Who is this new? There is a scene where I say that she was cold during birth and they put her into an incubator, and then I didn't know what to do in the morning. She was crying, and I was like, oh, what do I do? Calling the nurse, no one came, And then in the end, I was like, actually, this is my daughter. You have to take her. You can take her because she's your daughter. So I just opened the incubator, put her in my arms, and she was able to just drink milk. She knew what to do.
Yeah, I was the alien that you were confronted to in the little incubator spaceship.
What did you do? How did you decide what to put into the show and what to keep out? And why did you make it into a show and not just a documentary?
I mean, it was a big process because we had so much footage. I would say the process of making this show was probably more similar to editing a movie, in the sense that you have a lot of scenes and you need to cut them down. In terms of what stayed and what didn't stay, what do you think? I'm not sure.
Well, I think in a way, when you do a documentary, you take many paths and you have many options, but you start to see there is a thread. And it was like a very collaborative process. We had like a director who was the one who had the external eye, who didn't come in the journey with us. So she had like a different relationships to the material. We also had an editor who was with us in the rehearsal space. And we had the text that mainly Marta produced. So there were like written pieces about the encounters and so it was really like for a film, little by little, for a documentary, little by little, oh, we're going here, this doesn't have a space anymore, or that has the space. So, yeah, it was a dramaturgy that was written in the rehearsals.
Is there something that'll happen to all the bits you couldn't put into it? Will that live online? Will it maybe be a sequel show?
I mean, we do say in the show that this is the last show we'll do together.
Or she will
I think
have to go in therapy.
You can, exactly. You can survive one show with your mother, not two. But I think we were very inspired by the people that we met along the way, and I think somehow their stories exist within the show in one way or another.
There is one story.
Yeah.
We all say Nefisa was like a Sudanese girl that we met in Belfast, and she had arrived escaping a war and in an area in Belfast that was really completely confronted with the post-war trauma, and we ended up not having Nefisa in the show because it just didn't fit. And then I went back, and now there is like a TV series that is made starting from her story. So in a way, they will leave. The best ones, they will leave through other ways.
Yeah.
And what is next for the show after the Fringe? You said you're never doing a show with your mother. Will this one continue to travel?
Yes, this one will continue to travel. We're going to go on an Irish tour actually now in the winter. So that's really exciting because it is such an Irish story at its heart. And we are also going to travel to France and Italy with it also this winter. And
we'll be in Avignon. We're going to do the other big festival, next summer. So it's really
we are very
nice.
excited to play it. And I think actually performing it now in Edinburgh and seeing how, obviously now we're performing it in the 3 countries that are relevant to the show's story, but seeing how people from actually all over the world really relate to this story, in just even if you're from Japan and Korea, and you still have that kind of connection with what it means to not quite find your place and then find it, and not in the right place. I don't know.
It was funny. We had a Chinese woman the other day, and she was a young girl. She was crying at the end of the show, and she said, actually, I really miss home.
So that's it would be really exciting also to be able to explore that even further.
And How are you now after the journey? Do you still get along? Is this the only time you speak? When I say thanks for being here and it all goes dead, will you be like, right, done?
Exactly. This isn't actually my mother. It's a paid actress that I've brought in.
Wait, somebody gets paid doing the fringe?
I know. No, I think, to be honest, because I'm now 26, so we hadn't been living together for, I moved out when I was 17. And I think in a way it has allowed us to spend so much more time. I saw a terrifying graph of like the amount of time that you spend with your parents, and it's like till you're 18 and then it just kind of plummets and you have like 1% of that time left. So I think in that sense it's been really precious of being able to also maybe have discussions that we wouldn't have had such in depth in this way.
It is also something beautiful, to see your daughter to embrace the job that you love, and to be able to kind of be there in the first moments, even if she's doing her own productions and doing something different. But we are living in two separate flats in Edinburgh.
Oh yeah, that was the number one rule.
Whose decision was that? And be honest.
It was absolutely mine.
Wow.
Any daughter out there will understand.
Yeah.
All daughters.
I'm actually trying to sell the show as much as I can, so I gain some time with my daughter.
Where can people find out more about you and the show online?
So people can follow us on Curious Industries on Instagram, and we have at the moment a promotion on EdFest, which is 2 for 1 because we're at the very beginning of our run, so we want as many people to see it as possible, and or the Zoo website, which is the beautiful venue we're in, Zoo Southside.
There was a poster I saw yesterday outside where we are at Gilded Balloon Teviot that said 2 for 1 if you bring your mum. So if somebody brings a mum.
Exactly. Come with your mum. We've had a few mother and daughters that have seen it. When they come out, you can tell that they need to go have a coffee and chat.
There needs to be a talk.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for coming in. Good luck with the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Aliens is playing at 4:20 at Main House at Zoo Southside every day until the 30th, not including the 24th of August. For tickets, go to edfringe.com and type in Aliens and you will find the show. Until next time, I've been Peter. See you then.